Welcome to the Lemonade Stand Stories podcast. Tune in every Thursday as we share inspirational stories from the world's greatest creators, entrepreneurs, and go-getters about how they've turned life's lemons into lemonade. And now, here's your host of Lemonade Stand Stories, Charan Prabhakar.
Hey guys, this is Charan Prabhakar with the Lemonade Stand podcast, and I'm here with Chad Willardson, who is an incredible entrepreneur in California. He has been killing it for some time. He's a California native, I believe, right? And
that's correct.
And he has a company called the Pacific Capital, which specifically focuses on entrepreneurs and families and helping them with their financial investments. But other than the financial side of things, he also has a company called Draft Sports Complex, which is all about team sports: basketball, volleyball, cheerleading. I'm sure I'm missing something. What else do you represent?
I mean, that
Stunts.
pretty much covers it. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
You know, you do all kinds of fun stuff, and I don't know. We just kind of chatting like over a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about all the different things you were doing, and I was like, dude, you're amazing, and you got some really cool stories and some cool insights, and I thought you'd be perfect for the Lemonade Stand podcast. So I'm so grateful that you gave us a little bit of time. So welcome, Chad. Thanks so much for being here.
I appreciate you having me on, man. I'm honored to be on this podcast. So
of course, absolutely. So the Lemonade Stand podcast is all about helping the future entrepreneurs, right? And we talk a little bit about our beginnings in the world of entrepreneurship. When you're a kid, a lemonade stand is usually their first business, right? So what was your first foray into business?
You know, the first experience I had was it was not a lemonade stand. It was really lawn mowing. I started by
Cool.
I did such a fantastic job mowing and edging my own lawn that I think the neighbors, we kind of had a couple neighbors who were getting up there in years, and I remember mowing the lawn, and I went across the street because his lawn was a little bit overgrown at seams, and I said, hey, if you ever want me to mow your lawn and do some of the yard work stuff, I'd be happy to help out.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think the first time I did it, it took me, I want to say 5 to 6 hours, because I did the bushes, that, you know, hedging and trimming, and I just wanted to do this perfect job in the guy's yard. And I think he gave me a $5 bill. And I was like, wow. I sweat a lot for that $5 bill, but I was excited because I had one neighbor that started in it, and it turned into a few other neighbors. It never got big or anything. I don't have some amazing story, but that was kind of my first time just going and approaching somebody from scratch and saying, I'd love to help you out. Would you be willing to hire me to do something? So
yeah, no, that's amazing. How old were you when this happened?
I want to say I was 12 years old, maybe 11 or 12.
Okay.
So I'm the oldest of 4 kids. I got 3 younger sisters. So as soon as I could push a mower, my mom and dad were like, all right,
get out there.
Get out there.
Yeah. So. Well, and did you enjoy it? I mean, obviously you must have to go to your neighbors and say, hey, I want to do your lawn as well, right?
Yeah, it was kind of fun to just be, you know, have that opportunity to create something.
Yeah.
Because I thought about it, and it was like, man, if I didn't go over to my neighbor's house, that wouldn't have happened. You know, I wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to do some work and earn a little extra money. And eventually, you know, I got better at it, and I was a little bit quicker, and was still making the same or more. So, I mean, it was fun to learn how to put some money into my own pocket as a kid.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, and obviously your first primary business deals all with finances. So you learned a little bit about like how money grows and how it works and how you can multiply money and expand it and stuff. What kind of drew you down that path of saying, this is what I really want to do and what I want to create?
Yeah, to be honest, and I would be speaking to all of you who are younger, you know, I'd say under 25 years old, I had no idea. I really had no idea what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I was in college, and I was a senior in college when I went to a career fair and basically said, I'm just going to talk to everyone, and I'm going to see what shakes of it. So I just went booth to booth to booth to booth and talked and asked and said, what is the job like? You know, what do you get to do? what are the skills needed to be successful?
Yeah.
And eventually I landed at the Merrill Lynch booth, a very big investment bank company. And they said, you know what, you need to be someone who works really hard, who's self-motivated, who's good with people, likes to talk about goals and plans, but you also need to be good with numbers and like money and investments and have that analytical side to you as well. And just when they said that, it just rang true to me like, hey, I think I could do this. Like, I think I should give this a shot. I was literally graduating in 2 months, and my mom was like, you know, you gotta figure out what you're gonna do for work. You know, you can't just graduate college with nothing. And I said, Mom, I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Well, what was your major then, if you didn't know what you wanted to do?
My major was economics.
Okay.
And my minor was business management. And I chose economics because I loved my Econ 101 class. It was really fun for me to learn about how the world works in the economy. And it was a really, really short major. So it was like the shortest amount of credits to graduate. Yeah. I didn't realize it was also like the hardest major. So
I was going to say, like, Econ's like a really tough subject, you know?
It was brutal. It was the higher level stuff was like calculus. Like one problem would take 5 pages of math and calculus. Oh my gosh. And I was like, this is not what I thought it was about, but I'm already in halfway, so I'm just going to try to get this done and go out there and figure out what I love. So,
yeah. Well, so you're at this career fair. You talked to the Merrill Lynch booth guys, and you said that something just kind of rang true to you.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So keep going.
It was certainly something that there was a kind of an aspirational quality to the job where it was like, if you get really good at this, you can build a business and you can find your own clients and you can grow your own business and there's no limitations. And you can also fail. So it's kind of a high risk job, even though it was working for a big company. It wasn't my own company. It was a high risk job where there was going to be, the salary was for 12 months. And then after 12 months, it's
commissions.
You're on your own.
Yeah.
Good luck. So whatever clientele you brought in, that's all you're going to get paid off of. So I'd say 95% of the guys and ladies I started with were out of the business within 3 years. Wow. Everyone was gone. And I was very lucky somehow to still be barely hanging on. And I realized I did like it, so I was going to stick with it. And eventually, in 2011, that's when I decided to actually fully become an entrepreneur and leave the big corporate world and say, I think I've learned enough, and I want to try this on my own and implement all the ideas I have that I'm not allowed to implement at a big firm. So that's when the real entrepreneurial journey started, was on 11/11/11, actually. Really superstitious. Yeah. So that's when I started.
I'll be superstitious, I'll be superstitious right now for that. That's amazing. Well, let me ask you this. Getting clients for a company like what you do, where you're managing portfolios and whatnot, is got to seem kind of daunting, right? Like, what was the process like of saying, okay, I need to go target some people? And how did you even go about like approaching them and whatnot?
It was a challenge at first, and I think that's why the failure rate is so high, is because, I'm 24 years old and I'm approaching somebody with significant financial wealth, and I'm saying, you need to trust me with your financial wealth and your financial well-being. And what I learned was that there's so much out there to learn, and I just needed to fully be all in. And the phrase I like to use is fully invested. I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to be fully invested. And so literally, I got my hands on every book and every article and every magazine, everything that I could find on the topic of wealth management or personal finance or consulting entrepreneurs. And I just read. And to be honest, I didn't like to read. Like, I didn't love reading in college or high school. It wasn't a thing that I ever did. Yeah. But once I realized that I'm either going to make it or I'm not, I said, I got to be a learn-it-all. I have to know so much and be able to communicate that to these clients, and that I can build trust and I can gain their trust. Yeah. And so it was a very short period of time, within a couple years where I realized I may not have millions of dollars like some of these clients do, but I can actually give them advice and guidance, you know,
Hmm.
and
Wow.
that's where it really started building that trust with them, is that they knew if either I knew the answer or I was going to grind and work hard and just go find the answer.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people love about entrepreneurs, is they see that spirit of just, I'm not giving up. I'm
Yeah.
fully invested, and I'm going to go figure out what I need to figure out, because someone out there has the answer, and I'm going to go find it.
Well, you talk about being invested, being fully invested, I guess.
Right?
How did you get to that point? Because, to get to that point, you're having to face your own personal doubts, your own
Right.
personal struggles, your own personal just feelings of inadequacy, I would say, right?
Sure.
And I think that every successful entrepreneur has had to face those challenges at some point or other, right? Because the road to becoming an entrepreneur, or a successful one, I would say, that has like lots of money or has built like a really big thing, is filled with all kinds of pitfalls and struggles and challenges, right? So how did you get to the point where you're like, I'm going to be all invested in this thing?
And that, I think, is a challenge right now because of social media, that
Yeah.
a lot of people see successful entrepreneurs and the lifestyle they have now, and they want that end result right away.
Yeah.
And what they don't see is all the struggles and rejections. And I've told people that before. I'm very honest about it. Like, you might see the freedom and success that I have now, but this is 19, 20 years in the making. And
Yeah.
I struggled. I doubted. I had failures and rejections. I would come home from work. I was the first one at the office. I'd get there before 6 a.m. I'd turn the lights on. I'd sit in my little cubicle and I'd study and I'd work and I'd make cold calls, and I would leave at 6 p.m. or later, and I'd get home to our little apartment with my wife and my little baby girl, and I would lick and stuff envelopes for hours.
Wow.
And I'd be handwriting the names of these prospects on these lists that I had built from the phone book, and I'd stuff and lick envelopes for hours. We'd turn on a basketball game, and I'd be just stuffing my envelopes, writing stuff in the envelopes for hours, and then I'd mail them out in the hopes that someone would read it and maybe come to a dinner seminar I was hosting, or they would
Wow.
call us back for an appointment. And there were times when I'd show up to the dinner seminar and I'd invested dozens of hours in this one seminar. And I'd set up so much stuff, and I'd put in some of my own money, which I didn't have much at all. And literally, there were seminars when nobody showed up.
Oh
And
my
I had
gosh.
all these materials printed. I had
Yeah.
reserved like a big U-shaped table at the restaurant. And I'm sitting there with my presentation ready. And maybe there were 7 or 8 people that RSVP'd out of the thousands I contacted, and nobody showed up.
Oh my
So imagine
gosh,
that
dude.
feeling.
Yeah.
It's like, feel like a total failure. Like, what am I
Yeah.
doing? Maybe I'm not good at this. Maybe I should try something else. This is too hard. And I was rejected many, many times. Even for people that eventually did come and have a meeting, there were many times where they didn't go with us. They took their business elsewhere. So
Yeah.
the grind and the struggle, I just remember someone telling me, if you just hustle and really strive to do what's best for your clients and put in that effort for the first 5 to 7 years, eventually you will get at least to some point on that mountain where you can look around and say, okay, I've made some progress, and I can see that I can go further up that mountain. But it's a grind and it's a struggle, and everyone's going to go through that. There's a reason 95% of businesses close within the first 5 years.
Yeah.
That's not a fallacy. That's fact.
So did you, during those times, like that moment when no one showed up, how did you pick yourself back up? Because that is a tough thing when you put so much effort and so much, I guess, blood, sweat, and tears, your own personal finances, to host
Right.
something just to gain someone's trust, to say, oh, no one wants to even listen to it.
I kept feeding myself positive. Essentially, the content I would consume was positive. And back then, we didn't have podcasts and we didn't have a lot of the resources we have today. But it's even easier today to fill yourself with positive content. So I wouldn't dwell on it. I'd say, you know what? I got to learn from this. I like that phrase, you're either winning or you're learning. And so I had a lot of years of learning. I had a lot of failures where I was like, you know what? This is just a setback. I'm going to figure out a way how to make this work. What can I do better? So I was constantly trying to get my hands on information that would help me stay positive.
Yeah.
And really just learn from all the mistakes that I was making until eventually I would fill up the room with a seminar, or I would have people schedule appointments, or I would have some kind of success that I could say, hey, I figured something out. It actually worked this time, and it's not going to be failure or strikeout every single time. So
right. And I like what you said. You're either winning or you're learning, right?
Right.
And that's a cool mindset, because then you don't look at failure as like, oh, I'm worthless or I'm awful, but it's more like, okay, cool. Like, well, that was how this experience went. What can I learn from it? And what can I do to prepare better for the next time? And and at that moment, your self-worth isn't in jeopardy. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, I'm not a baseball guy. I'm more of a basketball guy. But a baseball player, you get 10 at-bats and you get a successful base hit on 3 of them, and you're an all-star.
Wow.
So you fail or get rejected or you're not successful 70% of the time, and you're an all-star. So I don't think it's reasonable for us to expect ourselves to bat 1,000 and have 100% successes. We have to realize that the struggle is part of the journey, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. And yet, during those moments of like stretching and struggling, you really start to discover who you are inside.
Absolutely.
Right? And you discover like, oh wow, like I didn't know I had this type of inner strength in me to keep going. I don't know. My dad always kind of jokes with me, because he's just like, Sharon, I wish I had your tenacity. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, you've just been rejected so many times as an actor, like over and over. I'm like, all right, Dad, I get it, But he's like, no, but seriously, you failed so many times. I'm like, I know, I get it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's funny because, yes, I have been rejected. But once I started learning, oh, rejection just means, okay, you just weren't right for the part. You're like, all right, great. Well, I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to keep going. And the next thing I know, I started winning, and I started winning some really good ones. And I'm like, wow, I think the real trick to winning was just kind of like having fun with it, and like not getting too emotionally attached to what you think the outcome should be, but just going for it and seeing that, hey, this is the whole process, the journey, the struggles. It's all part of the joy that we experience, and that
not taking it personal.
Yeah,
I would say that's another thing. Is like, don't take it personally. If someone rejects me, that's fine. That the timing may not be right for them.
Yeah,
that doesn't change the value of what I'm offering to the world. So I'm going to find someone.
Yep.
There are enough people out there who really would love and appreciate what I do. So it's my job to just find those people.
Yeah.
So
absolutely, and like you said, it's like one of those square peg round hole situation. If someone just doesn't fit, that's okay. No worries. Yep. Somebody else will. And finding that person is the way to go. So let's shift gears just a little bit. You're also a huge sports fanatic, I guess, with this other company. How did you get involved in that side of things?
Yeah, so 2019, well, we've been talking about it for years, we being a couple friends and I in town. We didn't have an opportunity in our area to have like a big regional sports facility, a complex where our kids could play and travel in club sports tournaments. So it stemmed from us seeing the need. So let's just give you perspective here. Please. So my kids play travel basketball and travel volleyball, club volleyball. So travel basketball teams, we would play a team who is based, maybe 10 minutes from where we live. And our team is based in our city, and we would each drive an hour and a half to go meet up at some tournament and face the Southern California traffic to play in, West Los Angeles.
Okay.
It doesn't make sense that we were playing these teams that are right from our own backyard, and we're both spending all day on the freeway and getting stuck in our entire Saturdays out at some tournament facility that's not even close to either of us. So we just kept talking about, man, we really need to create something that's local where we could host huge tournaments for basketball and volleyball and now cheerleading. So finally we put together a group end of last year, and we're able to basically take over this really nice big building, about 75,000 square feet, that was a furniture warehouse.
Wow.
And turn it into this beautiful sports complex and put the gym floors down, and we put the restaurant cafe in. We've got some other stuff coming in. And crazy situation about that is it took us, years of thought and many, many months of grinding to get it to where we could break even and we could essentially start paying the bills and having a little bit extra.
Yeah.
And then COVID-19 hits.
Oh my gosh,
and we're no
dude,
longer allowed to gather in California, and there's no sports tournaments, no practices, no games, nothing. And we have this massive, expensive sports facility sitting empty in Southern California. So here's a great situation. We all 6 months forward, all the tournaments that we had canceled. We had massive success putting the next 6 months together. It was going to be very, very profitable. And so here we are, huge bills to pay, not even allowed to function in our business. And what do you do as an entrepreneur? You figure out how to make it work. So what we did in the last couple months is we figured out a way to sign up and create a charter school. So we essentially became like a charter school tutoring center for kids of essential workers. And that was a way that we could continue operating. So in our 5,000 square foot kind of office area, we ordered desks, chairs, we hired some tutors, and now we have a school option for tons of kids to come in every single day.
Wow.
And do their laptop learning there. And then we have our trainers that can do like their PE. So because the kids aren't getting PE in California because there's no school in person. So we've completely pivoted towards creating something that's going to keep our business going until we're allowed to gather in person in a way that we can do sports tournaments again. So it was it was tough.
I mean,
as we got to that peak, it was just cut off.
It's like, all right, well, see ya. Yeah.
Man,
well, what a pivot! What a really cool pivot. Well, temporary maybe, until the games start coming back on again. But how quickly were you guys able to switch over to this charter school idea from the moment when you're like, oh shoot, nothing is gonna go down,
We had to do it within a couple weeks because,
oh my gosh, that sounded so stressful.
It was stressful. It was like very late nights with the partners.
Yeah.
We were on Zoom calls just trying to figure out what can we do to stay in business and to not lose the huge investments we've made as a team in this business and still stay compliant with the rules in California. So, and I think going forward, we'll still have that charter school option as well. And it's a way for us to bring in revenues during the day in the morning, which is very hard for sports facilities typically. So I think this could be a pivot that we made that will have lasting, positive business impact. So we're very excited about it.
Man, that's so exciting about all of the switches that you were able to do. Now, let me ask you this. How did you market and how did you get people to say, hey, we need a schooling option? And how did they allow for that to even happen? Because I thought, isn't that also social gathering as well? Or
yeah, so there is an opportunity to offer like supervision and tutoring services.
Okay.
Because there's so many essential workers out there. Like if there's a hospital worker and a fireman and there's nowhere for their kids to be, they're allowed to go to essentially a tutoring type daycare service. So we dug into the California state laws and all the recent changes and tried to find a way that we could still serve the community and earn money at the same time. So we blasted it out, and we were very transparent. I said, we just got to tell people, hey, we appreciate all the support in the community, and we've got a great business that we believe is going to be here for decades, but we need your help, and we want to make it a win-win, so we want to help you. So this is what our aim is. We want to switch and pivot to accommodate those kids who need to be supervised and helped and tutored because no one's going to be home with them during the school hours. And the community support was just awesome. And people really rallied around us. They love our facility. They love the way we run the business. So it's been just great to see how quickly people embraced what we were doing.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's really great, man. And you were able to, in a very quick amount of time, like that seems like a very, very quick amount of time, you were able to understand a need and understand a way to like solve that need. And so good on you.
When you're desperate, you get creative. And that's what we did.
I know, seriously. Well, I think there's something to be said there because I feel like when you have limitations, sometimes those can be the most beautiful things you could have in your life because those limitations suddenly force you to action and to say, okay, cool, this is what we got. How are we going to survive? What are we going to do to make this happen, right? And so
I agree, absolutely.
I think that's awesome. So let me ask you this: speaking of COVID and speaking of uncertainty, what are some things that you've done in your own life to kind of find joy and to find purpose?
I've reprioritized my time better because of this. My wife and I have 5 kids, and they're very involved in sports. And so we went from spending every night at driving the kids around to different practices to absolutely nothing on the schedule. And it's been a great opportunity for us to reconnect better at home. Having every meal at home as a family and for dinner 7 nights a week has been incredibly unique. And at this stage in our life, I couldn't see that actually happening. So I believe we've just figured out ways to stay grateful and to focus on what matters. And that's our family relationships and our health and the things that money can't buy. So that's really what I've taken from this, is really to focus on the things that are within our control and what we can influence, and to stay grateful. And like I said back earlier, is focus on the content you consume.
Yeah.
So the news media is really focused on pushing a lot of fear and division. And so I really stay away from any people or sources of information that are focused on the negative. That's been important to my personal health.
Yeah. I actually think that's incredibly poignant advice. I look at the news a lot of times and I'm like, man, look, these narratives that are being presented are just so divisive,
Right.
and they're negative, and so much conflict is being presented, and it paints this picture that this world is just so terrible and people are just terrible. But in my experience, when I go out and I actually interact with people, I'm like, oh, people are actually quite wonderful, and they have some great compassion and they're willing to help each other out. So there's definitely this huge difference between my interaction with people versus what the media says is going on, right?
And that's a good quote from my coach, Dan Sullivan, who says, "The mind only sees and the ears only hear what the eyes are looking for."
Oh, I like that.
Essentially, you will find what you're seeking. So if you're going to seek division and negativity, there's plenty of it. But if you're going to seek positive collaboration, opportunities, blessings and gratitude, then you're going to find that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me ask you this, like a kind of like a wrap-up question. What would you give advice to like the younger generation of entrepreneurs, specifically those that aren't exactly sure where their path is? Because that's kind of like where you were at, right? Where you weren't exactly sure where you wanted to go.
I'd say, to be successful, you need 3 things. You need to be doing something that you love, that you're naturally good at,
Mm-hmm.
and that people value and they'll pay for. So if you have two of those three things, it's not enough. If I love to paint paintings, and people are willing to pay lots of money for paintings, but I'm no good at it.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Doesn't
right?
work.
You got to have all three. So, and by that same token, I see a lot of people who are good at what they do and they earn a lot of money, but they really don't like it, and that's not a winning formula for life. So, I think figuring out what you're good at and what you love to do, and see where those intersect, and see how you can essentially turn that into a business to where you can share those talents and gifts with people who are willing to pay for it. And discovering what you're good at and what you really enjoy, that should be a fun journey. There should be a lot of experiments and testing, and everyone, I believe, has unique abilities and talents. Mm-hmm. And so it's a matter of discovering those, igniting those, and then figuring out a way to essentially package that and give that to people who are looking for it.
Yeah, I love that. Like those three things: find something that you're good at, find something that you love, and find something that people will want to buy. Right?
Exactly.
It's interesting. I had I guess he was a mentor to me for like a little bit, but his name is Jake Everett. He passed away, but he was Robert Redford's producer. He would do a lot of these movies. His first movie he ever made was Chariots of Fire. And I'm like, that's insane, right? And so he had like this really beautiful home and everything. And one day he invited me in, and we were just kind of chatting about life and whatnot. And we decided, as you were discussing things, he said, "Sharon, I got to tell you, like when it comes to making movies and stuff, really find something that you really love. Like, don't make a movie just because you're gonna make some money. Like, do it because you really love it, because it just takes so much of your life to make a movie."
Right.
And he said, like in his entire career, he's only made one movie where he was not passionate about it, And he said it was just a miserable experience and it was a total failure. I'm like, oh shoot, that's too bad. What was it? I had to ask him, and he's like, look, my kids wanted me to do it, so I did it. And it was Mario Brothers. I don't know if you remember that movie back in the 90s.
Gosh.
Okay,
that's funny.
I remember that movie being terrible as a kid. I was like, oh man, I just didn't really enjoy it. But he himself was just like, yeah, it wasn't a good experience for him, unfortunately, because he wasn't totally passionate behind it.
Yeah, but if you're not fully invested, it's not going to turn out how it should.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And I think that same principle of making movies or finding your path for you is so important, that you do those things that, you are good at, that you love to do as well, because that love is what's going to help carry you through like the struggles,
Correct. Yep, absolutely.
And then, and find something that's like, people will want to pay for, because I think that's the big thing, right? Yep. Well, Chad, I really appreciate you taking the time and chatting with me. Do you have any other last bits of words or bits of advice that you would like to give? Anything that you may have learned from mentors from your own past that have helped you?
I would say that it's okay to have struggles, and I think that message needs to be loud and clear. I would also say that, it's part of the journey, and defining success up front is important. Defining what's important to you is important. Hopefully you're not someone who's going to measure success by financial numbers alone. That's a great measurement of growth when you're building a business, but it's definitely not the most important, and it's not the only measurement. So look at what success means to you. What is your end goal? What are you looking to create? And find ways to be valuable first. People will hire you and pay you once they realize how valuable you are. So don't look to say, how can I make money quickly, or how can I make the most money? It's how can I be useful to the target audience? Who do I want to be a hero to? Who do I really want to be a hero to? And in my life, I look at that and it's like, first of all, I want to be a hero to my wife and my kids. I want to be a hero to the team members who work for me, and I want to be a hero to the busy entrepreneurs and families who are looking for more clarity and more confidence in their financial life. That's who I really want to be a hero to. And so once you define that, you can really see, where should I spend my time?
Yeah.
Who do I need to focus on? And what's important to them? What problems do they have that I can help solve? And that's really what has guided me in my entrepreneurial career.
That's beautiful advice, man, because I think too many times we run after things like, oh, this will make some money quickly, or this will make some money quickly. But in the end, you aren't really providing value, and because you haven't even done the homework for yourself to figure out, hey, who do I want to be a hero to, or who do I want to bring value to, right?
Absolutely.
And if you don't have that anchor point, then you're like a ship without a rudder, right?
Exactly.
And you're kind of
analogy.
kind of going all over the place. So, yeah. Anyway, Chad, this has been amazing, man. Thank you so much for taking the time for chatting. And I can't wait to come to California one of these days and either attend a charter school or go to a basketball game. One of the two.
There you go. I like it.
Yeah.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, by the way.
Yeah.
My first book, my new book, comes out next month.
Yes.
So,
actually, yeah. Go ahead and give a little bit of a shout out for that.
Yeah. So the book is called Stress-Free Money, and it's overcome the 7 obstacles to find financial freedom. Okay. So in that book, it's coming out most likely the end of September 2020, and you'll be able to buy it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. There's going to be an audiobook, ebook, all that stuff. But really, it's going to give you some very practical insights on the 7 things that keep people from having confidence and peace of mind and a stress-free relationship with their money and their financial life. So I share a lot of cool stories in there from my past 19 years in the business, and just a lot of insights and tips that I hope that readers really find valuable. So regardless of your financial net worth or how early you are in your career, how late you are, I believe that I've included enough principles in there that are going to apply to you. So
that's awesome, man. Well, I'm excited to take a look at that book. I would love my money to be stress free. So
there you go.
That's awesome. I appreciate Chad, you taking the time, and we'll make sure that we put the link to your book when it comes out in the description under the podcast as well, so that people can go right to it. So anyway, thanks again, man. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Lemonade Stand podcast, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you use to be alerted when we release new episodes. We'd also love to hear your feedback in the reviews, and if you or someone you know has an awesome Lemonade Stand story, please reach out to us on social media and let us know. Thanks so much, and have a great day.